Hey guys, how are things? So I I regularly get questions on Facebook in messages about tried and tested knives, equipment, etc. So I'm always conscious of trying to cater for everybody's budget, and we know where I stand on the LT Wright Genesis. I think that is an absolutely marvellous knife, but not everyone can afford a knife such as that. Now, this is a knife, and the gentleman that designed this, Lars Fält, if you don't know Lars Fält, I would strongly recommend that you go and check him out. I suppose he is the European equivalent to Morris Kahansky, and is definitely in terms of survival, a Yoda-like sage of wisdom regarding survival education. Definitely worth a like, and probably played a hand like Morris in teaching your favourite survival instructor, but he never told you about that. Lars developed the Swedish Armed Forces Survival School, and he had quite an illustrious career within the military as a survival instructor, and he is well travelled. He's not just adept at his own environment that he would find in the Scandinavian type countries, but he is widely travelled. Anyhow, this is the knife of his design, and why I like this knife an awful, well, apart from the fact it's a really good knife, but I like it because if I have a student that has €150 to spend on a knife, this is a great knife. It's almost just a shade under a 4.5 inch blade, full tang construction, about 4mm thick spine with a sharp spine. We all know we like this sharp spine, which has been kind of doing the rounds for an awful long time now because it has a multitude of uses. This knife, it's made in Schleppnir steel, okay, which is, I suppose, a modified version of D2, and is a little bit less prone to chipping than D2, I understand. Anyhow, I've beaten the absolute snot out of this over the last year, I would say, and it has been proven to me to stand up. There are no chips in this whatsoever, and it's a very, very comfortable knife to use. So we'll do a bit of battling anyhow, and I suppose the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. But this is really a marvellous knife, and like I said, if Lars Fält didn't know how to design a knife that is suitable for wilderness use and potential survival use, I don't know who would. Now we're approaching a lot of knots here now, purposely. Ordinarily in a survival scenario, or I would be trying to avoid stuff like this, but I believe in over testing knives to be really sure that they can do what they're meant to do, you know. We're nearly through this now. Now we have gone through that. You can see that that has been quite challenging, and ideally that is something that you would try and avoid in a survival scenario. But we test stuff beyond what you do ordinarily, and then you know that you have like a really good product. Now there's not as much as a blemish on the edge on that. Battening, and I know I go on and on and on and on and on about it, but in Ireland, where things is almost always sodden, is such an important ability for your knife. And if you don't have a full tang knife that can't handle that, I'd be really questioning what you've got that knife for, because if we can't make fire and we can't make, and I know you've heard me saying this before, but it's like neuro-linguistic programming. I can't over stress the importance. Now we went straight down to some more challenging knots there, not a problem. So my thinking is, if we use this in the harshest environments and conditions, which I have done since I've had this knife, because it's necessary so that I can actually promote this knife to my students. And yet again, absolutely nothing wrong with the tip. Now I will say, to be fair, I always put a little bit of a micro bevel on the edges of my full Scandies because I use them quite severely, you know. But a great knife, 90 degrees fine. We're going to test it now on a little bit of cotton wool. So I just took this out of my pocket earlier. This is what's constantly on me at any given time. So spine, it strikes anywhere. As you know, my preferred method is to anchor my hand above what I want to ignite and draw the ferro rod back. And there we go. So guys, it's a bit of a short video because there's only so much you can do with this, but a fantastic knife. And for the money, is there better out there? I think not. And some people would say a 4mm spine is too much and it's too thick for a Scandi grind, and I suppose in essence, in terms of pure crafting, they're probably right. But that extra millimetre or two of prizal value, of separating wood when you're battening, you know, is really worth having. And like I said, especially here, this knife, the only thing I could see that could happen this knife is that you could potentially break the handle on it. If you were to break the handle on it, you still have a knife, you still have, it might be uber comfortable to use, but you still have a sharpened pry bar that can work wood. And that's what we really want in a survival scenario. Guys, we'll be back to you soon. Definitely the temperature has dropped here in Ireland in the last few days, and we're well down into the single digits now in daytime. It's hard to believe we were up around 15.5 degrees this time last week. But we'll be back again next week, and thanks for dropping by. Stay well.